This weekend's liturgical celebration replaces what would be the 24th Sunday of Ordinary Time with the extraordinary Exaltation of the Cross liturgy. The first reading in today's liturgy from the book of Numbers is a recalling of the grumbling by the Jews about the poor food and the poor conditions. So God, in his anger, sends snakes or serpents or something to sting them, and some died. And they complained in another way to Moses, "We have sinned, to tell God to call off the vipers." Well, Moses prays and God says, okay, form a pole with a bronze serpent on it, and those who look at that will be healed. So in a way, that's a triumph of the symbol of healing in Numbers. And in the gospel, in John's gospel, that we hear in today's liturgy, Jesus is talking with Nicodemus, and Nicodemus has come to Jesus at night and asking him about, what are you up to? What do I have to do to really understand you? And Jesus says, well, you have to be reborn. You have to change your mind and heart. But then he says something referring to Moses and the serpent and the bronze pole. He refers to himself. And what Jesus is doing is saying, those who look to me, believe in me, will also be healed. And I will do that as a sacrifice. So let's talk about the symbol of the cross. We look on it and see something. And there's many things to be seen there. There is another tree in the Bible, and of course it's the tree from which Adam and Eve ate. The tree of disobedience. They were asking for not just more, but all, please. They wanted to be complete. And they get banished and into human pain and labor. And then Jesus, in a way, eats from the second tree, the tree of obedience. And you can read this and reflect on it in Romans 5, the new Adam and the old Adam. And Jesus, as the new Adam, cancels something. The symbol of the cross is a cancellation, if you will. That's one way of looking at it. It's one way it symbolizes. The pole and the bronze serpent canceled the punishment of the Jews' lack of faith. So what's canceled by the cross, by that symbol, and the person on it? The triumph of the cross is that the cross is immersed in the earth. Okay? And Jesus is immersed in the earthliness of our humanity. And what's canceled, what's the triumph, is that the Spirit triumphs over the flesh. The obedience cancels the disobedience. The trust. Jesus eating from the tree of obedience says trust cancels fear. So that the cross is raised up. It's triumphant over the earth. It's immersed in the earth, as Jesus was immersed in the earth, but triumphed over its self-condemnation, that Jesus is a triumph over our crucifixion of ourselves because of shame and guilt? How do we live with ourselves? How can we live with such incongruity that we are of the spirit and the flesh? We are of grace and nature. We are contradictions. And Jesus lived those contradictions and was defeated by the earth for a while, challenged by the earthliness of his opponents, abandoned by the earthliness of his close followers. But he triumphed. The cross is raised up above the earth. Jesus is, in John's gospel especially, Jesus is on a royal throne, not of, as it says in the gospel, I did not come to condemn the world, to condemn the earth, nor to condemn the earthliness of God's people. My triumph, the cross's triumph, is that he is raised above the earth, brought down to the earth by the earthliness of his opponents, the people who hated him. And they punished him. But his triumph is that his flesh did not dominate his person. The spirit within him, the holiness, the participation, the godliness in him, triumphed over human disobedience, the earthliness, so that the cross is buried in our earthliness and cancels not our earthliness, not condemning the earthliness, but raising it up. The triumph of the cross is the triumph of our grace, his grace in us over our fallen nature. Well, that's theology and that's prayer. What does it mean? We look on the cross and we are healed from self-condemnation, from our earthliness that would condemn ourselves. I am too much of the earth to be loved by God. I am too much encased in my dirt to be penetrated by grace. The triumph of the cross is the triumph of spirit over flesh, over our judgment of ourselves, our condemnation of our worldliness, and receiving the triumph, not just that Jesus triumphed over the Romans by his resurrection. We look on him and he triumphs over our self-worldliness, our sinfulness, our condemnation. And we celebrate that at the Eucharist. It's a triumph of the cross that allows us to receive the Eucharist, which is grace coming within, buried in our earthliness, that we might live more peacefully with grace meeting nature. The triumph of the cross is the joy with which we live with ourselves, and to that degree, we live with ourselves and with and for others.